I still have your faded Nike sweatshirt. So when you coming back home to the city, streetlights mayhem, I know you're missing that. Oh, I've almost had enough of just your face on my phone.
You see, the reason why I am backing Sweetlands is because not only is it a fresh take on the Eurogame genre, like you get a really nice refreshing theme that's not very dry or dreary or moody. You get a really nice refreshing theme with having a whole Sweetland factory. But on top of that, I love the way actions are so interconnected in this game, and you do get rewarded for all the little things that you do in the end. That's probably like one of the best things about this game is that you get points for pretty much all your efforts as you are building out your entire sweet kingdom. The only like notable downside for this game really is that you spend a little bit more time in the appendix and the rulebook because the iconography is a little clunky. It's kind of hard to understand how things are explained on the cards themselves, but we'll dive all into that today. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Wolfpack. It's gonna be a fun and chill video today. I'm excited to talk to you about Sweetlands. But before we dive in, two quick things. One is I'm trying out a little bit of a different thing for the review here. So let me know what you think about this format and this layout at the end of this video, because what I wanna do is kind of talk with you. And as I explain the actions, instead of me like talking at you and just giving you, depositing all of this information at once, like here's the game, here are my thoughts, which is so linear, I want to have a conversation throughout the whole game. So that's one thing I'm working on. And the second thing to note is that it is not a sponsored review. As always, this is something that I'm doing totally on my own. And of course, it is a prototype copy, but I will leave a link to the Kickstarter down below if you're interested. And if you like videos like this and want to hang out with me a bit more, go ahead and hit subscribe down below so we can do some more crazy fun review ideas, because I would have loved to do this at an actual sweet factory or like a very light and airy sweet candy type thing. But anyways, let's get started with the review. Pulling my sleeves up because it's time to get serious. I think people are overestimating this game. It's not as heavy as it looks. It is a heavier Euro game, but I'm gonna break it down super easy for you and we'll walk through it step by step. So stick with me till the end, it's gonna be fun. So in this game, King Sugar Syrup has fallen ill, likely because of a sugar crash from eating too many sweets. So for us, our goal is to build the best and biggest kingdom. That way we are next in line to take over this beautiful kingdom. There are gonna be 5 rounds in this game, and one major way to score points is by gaining these skill tiles, which will reward you for building out a lot of different things over here on your player board and on your mini map, which each player will get. Everyone's gonna get one of these character boards, which you can actually slot in just like that. They're all asymmetric characters having their own unique abilities. And everyone's also gonna get a unique map board as well. The other main way of gaining points aside from these skill tiles is that there are going to be some endgame conditions on this prosperity track here. There are 6 different roads you can go up. And lastly, cards are a big deal in this game, and they will be another source of getting points as well, along with some other different minor actions that you'll get little by little. Now, time for the legendary question that seems to elude many of us board gamers. What do you do on your turn? Now there are 4 phases in this game, and the first one is the start phase. So how this works is this timer is gonna go up. And like I said earlier, there are 5 rounds in this game. Now as this timer goes to the second one, it's gonna unlock some stronger actions. And then again for the third one, stronger actions as well. That's it for the start phase. The timer just moves up. Then from there, it goes into the income phase. Now here's the part where it's pretty satisfying and there's a great payoff. So the first thing that happens is there are these round support tiles. And this is one thing that I really love about Sweetlands is that sometimes with Eurogames, you kind of get locked into one particular path. Like once you're generating a certain type of resource, like if I'm generating wood in a different game, I'm gonna be getting wood the entire time. But here, you're gaining different resources with each round. So the game invites you to explore a lot of its world through the income phase, and I absolutely love that. So for me, in this instance, if I'm playing as green, I get to increase my mining income and my wood income for this income phase, which means I'm gonna go over here to this side of the player board, and I'm gonna increase my mining by 1, and then I get to increase my wood generation by 1 as well. Now, this is one important thing about this game is that you really wanna increase your resources because obviously it's gonna pay off with the earlier that you build that out. Now everyone's going to do their round support tile, and then when you come back on the next turn to do this again, you actually have to pick a different spot to go in. So you can't keep picking the same spot. And that's why I said that there's a good variety to generating income from these round support tiles. Now, the second thing that happens is you're gonna look at your character, and some characters are going to have an income phase where they generate income. For me, Lotus doesn't generate anything, but another character that does is Gretel. So Gretel is actually gonna give you, for each round, a diamond. And diamonds in this game are a more luxurious resource. There are your 4 basic resources. You have gold, wheat, wood, and mine or ore. Diamond is a more luxurious resource which you can use for some stronger abilities. All right, so we got our round support income. We have our character income. And the next part is one that everyone's gonna get. And this is going to be your resource income. So if you look here on this side of the player board, you're gonna gain resources depending on what is slotted on the left side. So in this case, I would gain 12 gold, and the big blue cubes, because these cubes are actually differentiated by size. So the big blue ones are 10, and then it goes 5 for pink and 1 for the white ones. So I'm gonna get a 10 plus 2 more for gold, and then the same thing for all the others. So honestly, it's fine that your resources are cubes, because whatever cube is in that particular slot, like for the cubes in wheat, those are wheat cubes. Like they don't need to be anything unique, but because I'm so used to the deluxification of Kickstarter resources, and honestly, like with the production of this now, it's fantastic. However, I feel like they can really raise it up to the next level if they have individually shaped resources. Like I would rather have little wood resources, little wheat resources, and little gold coins. Reason for that is because these resources are very tactile. This is what you're using the entire game. All the other fun pieces that you see, like the cookie rabbit and the milk property and all the different tents and houses, you only get to use them once. So there's this tactile thing that I'm missing with this game. And again, it's not a big deal, but I would easily pay like the extra $15 or so for like a deluxified resource pack if they added that in. Because I really want to see that Everdell/Flamecraft look for a game that is all about resource generation like this. So again, not a big deal, but I would easily pay for that elevated experience for the resources like that. Tell me in the comments that you agree or disagree with my set of resources here, because come on, who doesn't want these little wood tokens? We got money here. Some people have money for their characters, and then we have money from the left side from our resources. Last thing that we're gonna do for the income phase is draw our 5 cards. But for the first turn in the game, you're actually gonna draw 6.
I used to roll my eyes, I just couldn't sympathize.
Now we get into the third phase of the game, which is the action phase. Here's where all the fun comes in for Sweetlands. All right, in this phase, you only take 1 action on your turn. So the worker placement action for the first part is taking an action disc and placing it anywhere here on the main board. This is like the main type of interaction that you're gonna get in the game. So let's break down some of these spots so you know how the game flows. If I take an action disc and put it on this spot over here, I first have to pay a card from my hand in order to actually take that action. So I can spend this card and put it in the discard pile. And then I can now take the action listed. So in this case, it's pretty intuitive at this point. This says spend 2 diamonds in order to go up the prosperity track twice. Now, if a second person comes in and they take their action disc and put it on the second spot, they then have to pay 2 cards and then 3 cards for the third spot. So that's probably the main and honestly like the only type of play interaction that you're gonna get in this game is just who's taken up which spot. Now I'm only showing my green colors for now, so it's not confusing, but this prosperity track is how you're gonna score a lot of end game points. This right here is another highlight for me in this game, is that you can choose how you want to be rewarded. If I'm building out a lot of roads, I'm gonna go up the prosperity track on this road over here. That way I get rewarded for all the roads that I've been building. For me, that's fun. It's like rewarding yourself with the fruits of your own labor. So in this case, if I was on this point of the prosperity track, I would get 1 victory point for every 3 rows that I've built. But then if I get all the way to the end, then I'm gonna get 1 point for every single road that I've built. So I get 3 times the amount of points if I keep going up on this part of the track. And the other ones do the same thing for different actions. Let's go over a couple more action disc spots, because again, this is one action that you can take. Put action disc out, right? So if I take this action disc and I put it out over here, spend a card, I can put out 3 terrain tiles. Now, you're gonna spend a lot of time in this game on your actual map board. So with the map board, here's how it works. You have 4 different types of terrain. You have sea, field, forest, and mountains. The important part about this board is that you really want to expand out, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4 ports on this board. Here's the crazy thing. If you don't expand to any port in the game, you're gonna lose 40 points. It is minus 40 points for not expanding. So that's like one big way the game does punish you. And I think it's actually the only way it really punishes you is that you really want to expand out to your ports, because thematically, how can you build a big kingdom if you can't trade goods with other kingdoms, right? So you gotta expand to your ports. To do so, you saw my action earlier was to trade 6 wheat for 3 terrain tiles. So I can grab any color I want. I'll take 3 of these gray mountain tiles, and I'm gonna put them connected to my kingdom to start with, because you always have to be connected to your kingdom, and then adjacent to that. So right now, I have this going on, right? I have my kingdom, I have my 2 mountain tiles, and then when I place this mountain tile face up on this spot, I'm gonna gain whatever icon is covering up. In this case, it allows me to go up on the industry track 1 space. So let's go to take a second to do that. Now, the industry track is on the left side here. You have an individual industry and food track for every single person. So in this case, my little horse carriage is gonna move up, and you can also upgrade this to a locomotive later on. But my horse carriage is gonna move up just 1 space, and you also gain bonuses as the car moves up all the way. But then if it gets to this spot over here, you're gonna be stopped by a milk factory, and you can't keep going until you build out that little milk factory. If you saw my YouTube reel, you might have seen me being a fan over this, because I just love these little resource icons. Like this is just so satisfying. Little milk shops and coffee shops and stuff. It's amazing, all right? So what am I doing again? So then back to the map board, right? I just covered up this icon, which allowed me to move up the industry track. Now, some other important things to note is that you'll see this icon here next to a port. As soon as you are connected to that area, if I had another tile right here, along with roads built all the way over here, I can then gain this draw power. Now, draw power is a big deal in this game because it's directly linked to how many actions you can take. The more cards you have, the more things you can do. And the last thing I want you to know about this map board, aside from the ports and the draw power, is that yes, there are going to be some individual icon bonuses that you get throughout the game, but there are also these special tiles. These are big bonuses. For instance, this special tile here would give you 5 gold, and it increases your track by 7 income. Look at that, that's a lot of money. So those are big bonuses. And then also later on in the game, you can flip your tile. My character, Lotus, actually specializes in doing that. So your characters have one-time use abilities per round, and everyone is asymmetric. They also give you different resources. So for Lotus, if I can flip my tile, I can actually gain the bonus listed on the back of that tile. In this case, for my mountain tile, which I can use right now, still part of my turn, I can flip over this tile, and then I can gain 1 space on the prosperity track in gray, or I can also gain 1 mining income. So in the game, I probably wouldn't increase my prosperity track just yet because it's a little too early for me. I want to be able to generate income. I'll worry about the end game conditions later on. So I'll go 1 space on my income, just like that, and we're done. So all of that was linked to 1 action on your turn, which was initially taking this action disc, discarding a card, and turning in your resources, your 6 wheat, for 3 terrain tiles. So that's one thing I was mentioning about early in this video, is that I love how actions just cascade down, and it's very satisfying. Boom, turn in 6 wheat, turn in my terrain tile, get those bonuses when I use a character action, and all these actions are very linked together. It's very satisfying. Let's go over some more action discs that you can take. So if I were to go to this spot, here's part like one of my favorite parts about this game, which is building out your city. So in this case, you need to spend the resources listed on your player board, which I'll show you, in order to build 2 properties. I can build out any of these properties. I'm gonna go from bottom to top because this is where you start off with, and it's the least expensive, and as you go higher and higher, it's gonna become more and more expensive. But the cool thing is, as soon as you build 1, so in this case, let's say I build a cheese tent, I'm gonna spend 2 wood, and I'm also gonna spend 3 ore, right? I'm gonna take this off, and now I gain a bonus listed right beneath it, which is again, another terrain tile. You also get to unlock this ability here, that number 1. That means that later on, you can slot cards into your player board, and when you do, you can have a bigger limit to how many cards you automate. Basically, there are resources that are generated with every single turn. And then that cheese tent can be placed anywhere on your map as long as the tile has already been flipped. So I can take this cheese tent and put it here. Once you have 3 properties, that's going to form a city. Why do you need to have a city for your overall turn? Well, how your turn generally works is that you keep taking actions. You take turns taking 1 action at a time until you pass. As soon as you pass, you score points for having cities on your map. So the more cities, aka 3 properties linked together that you have, the more points that you'll score in the game, and of course, the more likely you are to win. So aside from the 3 main properties here on the board, I can build a milk property by spending the resources listed on the industry track. Or I can also build a coffee shop. Can we just take a second to admire this? This is so cool. The milk factory is gonna allow you to go further on the industry track. The tents and all these 3 properties here are gonna give you a one-time bonus. And the coffee shops on the bottom are gonna add to your automation, which we'll get to when we talk about the cards. The last type of property you can build, and again, this is all linked to this one action disc, right? Spending resources to build a property. The last property you can build is an ice cream clock tower. So this clock tower is only unlocked if you meet all the conditions listed on your specific character, which are a lot. So you probably won't get this until like the 3rd or 4th round in the game. So that right there was building a property. Now, naturally, you want people and you want citizens of this sweet land to enjoy the property that you've been building. So the next action I want to take a look at is over here. And that allows you to spend 4 wheat in order to go up 2 spaces on the food track. The food track is right beneath the industry track here on the bottom, and you're gonna go up 2 spaces. Now, for example's sake, yes, you are gonna gain a bonus listed here. In this case, it will allow you to build a road, and a road would just have connections from your kingdom to the tile. As soon as that road is touching a tile like that and adjacent to a side, you flip it over and gain its bonus. That's another way you can flip a tile over aside from using, like, for me specifically, the Lotus character action. So you flip over a tile as soon as the road is linked to that. But for example's sake, let's say I am moving this food token over here, and now I have in front of me a cookie rabbit. Let's say I have this rabbit. Once I have a property out, you can send out a rabbit to visit that particular property because they now want to live in your home. And the reason why cookie rabbits are important is because they will give you a bonus listed there sometimes. In this case, I would gain 2 wood generation and 2 mining generation, income generation on the left side. On top of that, cookie rabbits are worth a lot of points by the end game. So if you look here over at the prosperity track, you can gain all the way at the end 7 points per cookie rabbit in your town. Naturally, you want them to visit your town. Everything that we've been talking about so far was linked to your one action of placing an action disc. The second type of action that you can take is by playing a card from your hand. Now here's how the citizen cards work. There are 200 citizen cards, so it's a big deck. So the citizen cards are cards you're gonna spend a lot of time with in this game. On the top of this card, it's gonna show you the cost. In this case, it would be 16 gold, which you're gonna spend in order to play this card. And then you would get a reduction for every brownie card that you have in your hand. And I think how it works is you have these brownie tags at the bottom. And if you have these cards in your hand, then it'll cost, instead of 16, it'll be 15 for having another one in your hand. So from there, it's gonna have the name of the card. In this case, it's Benedict Bitter. After that, it's gonna show you the ability that you get if you play that card. So in this case, I can spend 2 income and reduce my income by 2 in order to build 3 roads. After that, it's gonna show you a sweets tag, which is, I think, is pretty much like a label for the cards. And on the bottom, this is for automation. So automation is your engine, and you can only activate it once you play a card. So once I have activated Benedict Bitter, I can then pay a diamond from my resource area to then place this card underneath the green area, since it shows a green icon. So I'm gonna place it under here. And then every time a symbol like this shows up, which is like a green kind of card symbol, which you can see like on the map, you can also see on the industry track here. But once I've used that symbol, I'm gonna gain the bonuses listed underneath that card. And it's limited depending on the amount of properties that you have. So in this case, I can only have 1 of these automation cards until I can unlock more of these cream puffs, because right now, unless you have 1 built out, you can have 1 card. If I have 2 built out, I can have 2 cards, and so on. So like with the coffee shop earlier, if I have that built out, I can then trigger the automation cards down below. All right, stay with me here. I'm gonna rewind you back up. Okay, let's review what's been going on, right? We had our start phase where the round marker is gonna go up and it's gonna unlock some new abilities. Let's go and open some up so you can see what those abilities look like now, since you are way more experienced in knowing how this game works. Okay. Now from there, after the start phase, we're generating income from the round support board and from our left side of our player board and from our characters too, if they have them. And we're gonna keep taking 1 action on our turn until we pass, right? So I can take an action disc and pay the resource in order for me to take the action listed to the right of the red arrow. The second option I have is to play a card on my turn. So naturally, you're gonna run out of cards on your turn, and that's what triggers you to pass, which is actually a third option you can take on your turn. So I can take an action disc, but then I'm gonna have to pay a card. Or I can play a card, but then obviously I'm gonna lose that card when I play it as well. And eventually, you're gonna have only one card left in your hand, and as soon as you do, you can't play this card because you always have to keep one until the very last round of the game. The last thing we haven't talked about yet, and the biggest way to score points in this game, is your skill tiles. So eventually, as you make your way through the map to the top portion here, or as you gain a locomotive, which is one of these green cards, you're gonna get that by eventually passing to this spot and taking these milk icons off, right? So eventually, as you get to this spot on the industry track, you can unlock this industrial locomotive. And as it gets to this part, you can unlock a skill tile. The skill tiles are a big deal in this game because this is how you get a ton of points. So the final action you can take, aside from the action disc, aside from playing a card, and aside from passing, is flipping over a skill tile. So if you got one of these skill tiles, let's say you have unlocked this skill tile, as an action, you can take all of these resources and then flip it over. And these are very powerful. Aside from gaining like one of each resource, there are others like getting a diamond, gaining 8 coins, scoring 3 points for having a cookie rabbit, or even this one, which gives you 7 points if you're on the 9th space of the food track. So that right there is pretty much your main actions of the game. And then you also have access to these free actions listed on the top right of the main board, which you can take as much as you want. They're pretty much resource converters. And then as soon as you get to round 5, everyone takes their final turn. And how scoring works is there's a lot going on, okay? So you're gonna be scoring points for all of this stuff on the prosperity track. Again, everything that you've worked towards, either building properties or building roads or getting cookie rabbits. And then what's unique about this game is that you have 3 scoring markers. You do have your primary scoring marker, and then you have your city marker and your industry marker. So the industry marker is how you get points from going up this track throughout the game. You have another one, which is a city marker. You get city points for building out different cities on your map board. And then eventually, these two together combined are gonna add to your overall final score. So that's why it kind of shows this narrowing region, because these points are gonna be added onto your main set of points for your victory points overall. After you score your prosperity track, you get points for, like I said, everything. You get points for having diamonds. You get points for having leftover gold. You get points for, I think, connecting to different harbors and everything. So that right there is a big win for this game, is that you are rewarded for all the little efforts that you've made throughout the game. There's no part of it really where it feels like, oh, I wish I got points for like doing all this, but I got nothing for it. And I think that's definitely a big plus, because a lot of Euro games are pretty punishing in that, where like if you diverge too much in a different track, you may not get rewarded for that particular objective. So overall, I clearly really like this game and I'm backing it 100%, but there are some things that you should be aware of. I think there are some downsides for it right now. And that is, one, the citizen deck, there's 200 of these cards. And for me, I think there's a little bit of dead space there because some of the cards are really confusing. I played this game twice now, once solo mode actually, and once at 2 players. We'll talk about solo in a second. But the cards are a little confusing, like they're not as intuitive as they should be, because I'm like spending my time in the rulebook trying to figure out how these cards work, because iconography is not really there just yet. But I feel like that's a problem that they can easily fix. Like for instance, this one, Christina Cranberry, the bottom here, I think it means like 3 of those sweets tags. And then I can gain 2 green properties for just having 3 cards in my hand? Or is it because if I play 3 of those cards, I can then gain 2? Or another example, if I play this orange card, and I'm not sure what's orange or not because this looks a little yellow to me, and that's orange, so are these the same cards? I can infinitely increase my income? Like that seems a little OP. So there is a lot of iconography, and instead of having 200 of these cards, I would rather have like half that deck, but then with everything making a lot of sense, having a lot of clarity, and being a more seamless experience where instead of me trying to figure out what they do, I'm here spending time playing the game. The second and last downside that you should totally be aware of is that when you're playing this game, it's not a very, I'm gonna take back my action friendly kind of game. So like if you're doing an action and you realize that you can't actually take it, it's kind of hard to backtrack. So you need to be aware of how many steps you're gonna be going forward, because taking back your actions is a little bit harder than normal. Like for instance, let's say I wanna put down a cookie rabbit, but then you need to realize the road before that, you need to have a property. And then before you get a property, you need to have a tile flipped over. If you like mix those up a little bit, you're gonna have to either wasted a turn earlier, or when you're actually backtracking during that sequence, it's a lot more confusing to kind of redo your turn. So it's not a bad thing. It's just something that you should be aware of. Like if you're the type that likes to take back actions a lot, it's a little bit hard to do in this game. But overall, I really enjoyed Sweetlands. It is a great solo game. Now for me, for solo, I usually do like campaign solo games or games where the story is different or there's something always new being added to the solo play. Here in Sweetlands, there is little to no regulation. You pretty much have a card that you flip over that tells you what actions spots are going to be filled in this area. And these are the action discs that you can't take during that turn. And that's it. And honestly, that's a win for me because you don't have to regulate the AI so much. You are spending time more really building out your engine, doing your tile placement, doing your worker placement, and spending time playing the game, which I absolutely love. But I don't see myself playing this game solo often, again, because of my natural taste with just like campaign games. I always like something different. But if you want a chill, relaxing game where you're just building out your tableau on your own and you're competing with your own high score, then this is gonna be a great fit for you. Because there are a lot of ways for you to score, because there are a lot of actions for you to take and to really explore how they are interconnected and chaining off each other, I think that's where the highlight and the fun of this game is in solo play and in competitive play, because even when you're playing competitively, you're pretty much playing a solitary game. And again, it's not a bad thing because most Euro games are like that. So this is like the genre where if you like Lisboa, if you like Nucleum, if you like Brass Birmingham, I think those games are right along the same alley as Sweetlands. I think the complexity is like right around there. It's drifting around Brass Birmingham, Nucleum. But what makes this game so different is that the theme is super refreshing. I love how light it is. And you know what it is? It's a type of game where you want to play a game around people, but not really with people. Like you don't have the energy to be super enthusiastic or hyper crazy, and kind of energy is a little bit more mellow, which is again, fine because it fills in a niche that's different, especially from my collection of games, which are very highly interactive, highly competitive. It's a beautiful balance to that. And that's why I'm definitely adding this to the collection because it fills in that niche where it's kind of more mellow and chill experience. You're playing around people, not necessarily with people. Again, it's not a bad thing because it's different. And that solitary experience works really well for this game. So overall, those are my thoughts about Sweetlands. I hope you all enjoyed today's review. And thanks for hanging out with me for this whole time as we talk about building out our beautiful, magical, sweet kingdom. I hope you all liked today's review. And if you have any questions about Sweetlands, go and let me know down in the comments below. I know we're nearing the end of the campaign already as of the time of this video, and I also do normally play games at least 3 times for my reviews if you don't already know, but due to time constraints, I only got it played twice, but I think that's more than enough to see exactly how I feel about this game, especially by this point in time. So with that said, thank you all so much for watching. And if you made it here to the very end, go ahead and comment milk in the comments below because I just love these little resources. This is one way that it won me over for being interested in the game, and I'm so glad that it delivers tenfold. Like it was way heavier than I thought it was gonna be, which is amazing. I'm glad it wasn't a light game overall. So with that said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.